Okay, today we're going to talk about lesson 2.3, domain and range. Okay, the domain is the x values of a function. The range is going to be the y values of the function. And then a couple of things I need to talk about before we continue on this. We also have to understand what the solid dot means and the open dot. Okay, the solid dot means that point is going to be included. And we'll go over the points here in a second. So since it's included, it's going to have the less than or equal to symbol or the greater than or equal to symbol. So that's for the solid dot or the closed dot. The open dot is not included. So when we do the less than and greater than symbol, it does not have the line underneath it. And that's going to be important when we start writing the domain and range statements. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and find the domain and range of this particular function. So what I do first is I find the points, and this particular point is going to be -5, comma 9. So that's that point right there. This point right here is going to be 3, comma -7. Now, so we're going to go ahead and get the domain first. Now remember, the domain is the x values. So when I talk about domain, I'm talking about the horizontal axis, the x-axis. So all the values that are on that particular axis are the only ones that I'm concerned with. So if I make myself like a little border here, going down this way, and then I'm going to make another one on the other side, my domain is going to be in between those two dotted lines. So on the domain, we're going to go from left to right. Okay, so that means my left border is going to be -5. So that's the first thing I write down, -5. Now, what I always like to do is go ahead and put in my X, and I put in the symbols. Because really what I'm doing is I'm just filling in these two symbols. So I got -5 on the left. When I go to the right side is going to be 3. Now the next thing I got to check are the dots. Are they open or closed? Both of these dots are closed, which means they get the line underneath. So when I state the domain, it's going to be -5 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 3. And that's the domain for this particular function. Now I'm going to do the range. And it's going to be very similar, except it's going to be y. And I'm going to fill in those blanks and determine if I'm going to put a line underneath or not. So on the range, though, it's the y values. Now the y values is the vertical axis. So that means I'm going to go from the bottom to the top. So I'm going to put my little border here on the bottom. and the top. So I'm going to get my bottom y value. In this case is -7. I'm going to go to the top. I'm going to get my top y value, which is 9. Both of the dots are solid, so I got to put the line underneath. So I got -7 is less than or equal to y, which is less than or equal to 9. In regular terms, y is in between -7 and 9. So that's how you get the domain and range for this particular one. Okay, now I'm going to find domain and range for this next example. So let's go ahead and start off with the domain. And remember, the domain is the x values, and we go from left to right. So I'm going to go ahead and set up my little x. And all I'm going to do is fill in and then determine if I have to put the line underneath. Okay, remember, so since domain is the x values, I'm going to have I just do a left and then a right border. Going from left to right, my x value is first, so it's -3. On the right side, my x value is 10. The 10 goes there. Now this one here has a hollow point. That means the first -3 does not get the line underneath. Now on the right side, it is a solid dot, so I must add the line underneath. So the domain is -3 less than x, less than or equal to 10. So the 10 is included, the -3 is not. So now I'm going to find the range. I'm going to go ahead and put my y in there, put my less than. I got to find those 2 points. Now remember, I go from the bottom to the top. I'm going from bottom to top. So my bottom y value is -6. I write it in. My top y value is 3. I write it in. The bottom one is hollow, so I leave that as is. The top one is solid. I got to put the line underneath. So the range is -6 less than y less than or equal to 3. So the range is in between -6 to 3.